Hey everyone, Kevin here. Here are my thoughts and breakdowns for what was said during the B conference, or the Bitcoin conference, with Elon Musk, Cathie Wood, and Jack Dorsey from Twitter and Square. All right, let's get into it. The show really got off as calling Bitcoin and cryptocurrency an open source platform, and this is exactly what we need for money and banking. Elon got right into calling ACH transfers like checks not secure and ancient. He says that credit cards are like handing your username and password to a waiter at a restaurant, which I know there's a zip code that you sometimes need, but most of the time we can guess it from local folks, right? It's not that hard. But anyway, then he goes on to say that most banking is just slow and that most transactions are batched and handled over time, and this causes a very slow banking system. It's kind of like what we see with settlement in stocks, is my guess, because in terms of his reference, because in stocks he sees, where we see settlement taking 2 days, right? T+2 settlement time frames. So that's why we have sometimes this massive lack of transparency when it comes to short interest or borrowed shares versus naked shorts, right? Cathie then talks about how money, and she's talked about this before, but quick recap of what money is. In her opinion, store of value, means of exchange, and unit of account, that you have sort of a balance between these three things, that it's like a triangle, and mentions that, hey, maybe Bitcoin is like a store of value and a unit of account, and maybe Ethereum is kind of like a unit of account and a means of exchange, and you can sort of have a balance between the three things here. She kind of refers to the ultimate unit of account as a stable coin, but what she really seems most interested in is that you can kind of build apps on top of the reality of cryptocurrencies. That basically you can take and build infrastructure or systems on cryptocurrency networks like Ethereum or whatever, and you can solve problems that we actually have. Later, she ends up likening cryptocurrency to the internet. So she's kind of comparing crypto to what the internet was like back in 2000, where we weren't really sure what the internet was going to do for us. But excuse me, oops. I'm choking on myself. But we had a good feeling that the internet was going to do something potentially good or potentially unlock some doors. She has that same feeling now. Now, here is probably the craziest argument, and I haven't heard this one before. This one was crazy in my opinion, but I kind of really liked it, okay? Her argument is that, hey, you know how people are worried about deflation happening in the United States? I'm actually in that boat as well. I think that we're going to see negative inflation next year, and I know 50% of folks aren't. But I've actually thought of that as a little bit concerning potentially for crypto because, well, if we have deflation, then do we no longer need the inflation hedge of crypto, right? And so I've just had that as a concern. And now, don't get me wrong, still investing in crypto. But Cathie's response here was really interesting. She says, look, if we have deflation in the United States, it could actually mean that more people are flowing into the US dollar, and basically the dollar becomes stronger, and that you have yields go down, kind of like you have in Europe, where you have negative yields, and you end up seeing lower prices. And this transition actually ends up leading to potentially hyperinflation in other less stable parts of the world where government regimes and monetary policies just aren't as strong as they potentially are in the United States. So you could be in a situation where you see deflationary pressures in the United States, but hyperinflationary pressures elsewhere, and those hyperinflationary pressures elsewhere might move people into cryptocurrency. That was pretty incredible. Like that I had not thought of that before. So shout out to Cathie for that one. I thought that was pretty cool. But then she also, then we go to Jack Dorsey, and he kind of mentions that, hey, look, there's going to be a huge, and I think he's sort of piggybacking off what Cathie mentioned here, that there's going to be this huge opportunity for you to transfer money from other foreign countries with cryptocurrency that just isn't possible or easy right now. Elon Musk then got on, and he said something he probably shouldn't have said, but he referenced that he might pump, but he doesn't dump cryptocurrencies. I definitely tweeted that because it's a pretty notable quote. So follow me at RealMeatKevin on Twitter if you want to like that tweet. But anyway, that was very interesting, and he kind of said this around the same time that he talked about this potential use case of having a crypto mining heater. Now, I thought this was really interesting because a crypto mining heater, like a space heater, might be something that you might plop down and then say, okay, hey, I'm cold in the room because Kevin always keeps it 65 in his studio. You know, I'd like to have a space heater. Let me put my space heater over here, plug it in, and then rather than just, running electricity through coils and creating warmth, Why don't we just have that machine be a cryptocurrency miner, whether it's Ethereum or Bitcoin or other, and the heat it gives off heats up the space. And so now you have this duality of, hey, you got space heating and a crypto miner. He thought the idea was extreme and kind of far-fetched, and he called it Furnace E. Like, I'm not sure if that's like the childish, like as if you're putting a Y at the end, oh, it's my Furnace E, or if it's like Furnace E with like a capital E for like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, Ethereum, electric, who knows, right? But anyway, that's what he called it. And so he believes that not only are there opportunities for things like this, but he does see a huge shift towards renewables for cryptocurrencies. And he actually thinks that renewables in the future will be a lot less expensive than fossil fuels. Right now, for example, we have, if I was going to build a power plant in California, it would cost me $700 million to do it with natural gas. It would cost about $1.3 billion to do it with solar, and about $1.4 billion to do it with wind. And when you stack up those numbers, you see that we're not quite actually at cost parity yet, which is a problem and is one of the reasons we have right now the majority of cryptocurrency being mined with fossil fuels. Now, I know that there are arguments that, oh, well, 70% of cryptocurrency uses renewables, right? But that is different from how much actually is produced using renewable energy in full. It's kind of like I can have one solar panel on my house and make coffee and air condition my whole house, but just because the solar panel covers 1% of my energy use doesn't mean that everything I've produced is done with renewables, right? Anyway, in fact, right now, I think I'm probably using around 4.5 gigawatts of power, but I'm generating somewhere around 4.2 or 4.3 with my solar panels. So like that ratio is something we want to improve, right? We want to get to a very high ratio of green energy production. And so Elon thinks we're going to get there, especially once we get to better cost parity and we start getting utility scale batteries. This is something that's very important. Cathie Wood asked Elon Musk if Elon Musk saw her report with Square. So ARK Invest and Square did a report about how they could use crypto mining to take advantage of extra energy that comes off of a grid that just isn't used sometimes. It's wasted energy. And this is true. This happens in California a lot, especially. And Elon Musk mentioned that at some point in the future, you can absolutely keep 24-hour mining rigs going with a combination of solar, wind, and batteries. But the problem is, in the Square report with ARK Invest, they mentioned that if it costs somewhere around $1.90 to $2.50 per kilowatt of wind or solar, you're probably sitting around closer to 18 cents a kilowatt hour to have battery storage. So batteries are nowhere near that cost parity yet. And so I know the gap was large. I'm not sure if I'm 100% on those numbers, but anyway, it's in the Square and ARK Invest Bitcoin report. And you could see they literally say one of their big problems right now is bringing costs of batteries down, which now if you're going to say, okay, well then, so maybe it'll be cheaper and more efficient to mine cryptocurrencies in the future and batteries become more efficient, that's fine. Maybe, but here's the problem. Look around at who's competing for batteries right now. Every single electric vehicle is competing for batteries. So you've got this really big issue where right now we're projecting electric vehicle growth to grow exponentially, and we're projecting battery growth to kind of grow more linearly. And so you're going to have this massive lack of supply of batteries. And trying to get utility scale batteries to support crypto mining, it's going to be a while. It's going to take a long time. I agree with Cathie, Elon, and Jack that, hey, yeah, there's the future in crypto. It's like the internet. We don't know yet what it's going to do for us, but we think it's good and that we're going to go towards more renewables. But there's a lot of work to do to get that cost parity correct. They talked a little bit about how important it is to have your keys on a hardware wallet. Basically, if you don't have your keys, it's not your coin. This is kind of really a slam at companies like Robinhood or honestly, quite even frankly, Square, where you don't get your keys. Elon did go off into a little bit of a tangent about how he actually thinks that nuclear power is pretty desirable and something that can easily be used and done very safely, even though he believes a lot of people are opposed to nuclear power, but they shouldn't be. He thinks that fission, nuclear reactors are actually a very good thing. Cathie and Jack Dorsey then talked a little bit about the Bitcoin developer community. And Elon Musk also talked a little bit about how, look, ultimately cryptocurrencies are really here to try to make the future better. And that if for some reason you don't like corporations or you don't like cryptocurrency, then ultimately you shouldn't like corporations. I'm sorry, let me redo that whole thought here, right? Let me totally mess that thought up. Let me redo that thought here. Elon Musk said, if you don't like corporations, then you probably should hate government, because government is the biggest corporation that exists. And he's using this to make an argument that cryptocurrency is our way of escaping corporation and even the largest possible corporation to exist, the government. He also made some references about how he thought it was weird that he literally before his eyes, he sees savings account balances at Tesla declining in Europe because they charge you to park your money, negative interest rates. And so I think Elon was kind of taking the stance here of like, yeah, no, we're not seeing any inflation. And then we've got Cathie Wood briefly talked about how she believes the gap rules are unfair, that when prices go down, you have to mark your accounting balances down for Bitcoin on your balance sheet, but not up when it goes up. She believes this is unfair, and I think she was really saying this to kind of prep Wall Street for potentially a rough quarter for Tesla, because Tesla's going to have to mark down a large loss for cryptocurrencies, potentially. I think they bought around 35,000, so it's possible that you're going to see a markdown on the Tesla earnings, especially on GAAP earnings, and that could affect like GAAP EPS and such. So, okay, good. So that is the summary of what I took away from the B word. Now we're going to go into the market close live stream. So we'll just go ahead and I'll just modify the title a little bit. I'll just put market close and this. And why don't we get into the sticks and kind of see what's going on with the sticks. So if you want to stick around, I'd love for you to stay here. If not, hey, on your way out, make sure to take that 40% off coupon code with you, where you could get 40% off expiring tomorrow on the courses linked down below, including stocks, psychology of money, and real estate investing, property management, sales, and YouTube. So check that out, link down below.